Hello everyone, and welcome to this video, which is in our Great Engine Opening series and also in our Crazy Leela series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler, and we are keeping on with Leela WDL Contempt ideas. If you're not quite sure what that is, do take a look at my blog on matthewsadler.me.uk and some of the previous videos in the previous series, which shows all the crazy things that Leela can come up with the WDL Contempt setting. In this video, one of my favourite ideas, and one I've used a lot in Blitz recently on Lichess, it's G4 against the Benko. Let's have a look how that comes up. So we get the standard little Benko, D4 knight F6, C4 C5, and after D5 black plays the Benko. Now in general, Benko's quite a decent opening to play in Blitz. Remember, I've had it a few times against Gawain Jones, a big Benko player in England, and always found it very hard. I mean, you get an advantage, you're a pawn up, but somehow, you know, the black position in a typical Benko is very hard to put away, and I always ended up losing on time or, you know, just getting confused. So, yeah, I mean, in general, you'd sort of think, well, you know, don't let the Benko happen in a Blitz game. But this idea really turns that on its head. After c takes b5, a6, Leela wants g4. Now, this idea is actually strongly reminiscent of a Morozevich idea, which is knight f3, d5, c4, d4, b4, and I think you can guess what's coming, g5, which was actually pretty strong. The idea is after knight g5, you go e5, and you're actually forking two pawns. You're attacking the knight on g5 and the pawn on b4. So yeah, I mean, this is actually a very decent idea for black, and yeah, this idea in the Benko is very reminiscent of that. Funnily enough, I've actually in my time I've played both g4 and e4 before, but I've never quite thought of it in this particular way. And well, I mean, one of the things about this idea is a very, very clever tactical idea, which I had no idea until Stockfish pointed it out to me. What is the general idea in actual fact? Well, you know, why does it make any sense at all? Well, the point is, you know, that with the Benko, you know, black playing c5, forcing the pawn onto d5, black's sort of playing to hold the dark squares in the centre. And yeah, black's control of the light squares is pretty weak. So what white's aiming to do is to exploit that, to actually use those light squares, and to actually target this knight on f6, which is the only thing sort of weakly attacking some central light squares. You get rid of that, you're just going to be able to establish yourself without any problem in the centre. So there is, you know, quite a positional basis to it, and of course, you know, the fact that you're threatening something like g5, just attacking a black knight, forcing it to move again, disrupting black's development, that's always going to make it slightly dangerous. So knight takes g4 is of course the main line. It's the one that I've had the most, but let's just have a look at a few other lines, sort of Benko-ish lines, just to give you an idea of why this works in general. I mean, e6. Bishop g2, and then knight takes d5 looks very natural, doesn't it, really? I mean, you know, there is white doing his crazy g4 stuff. Let's just, you know, clear the centre, get rid of the white pawns there, and Bob's your uncle. However, this loses on the spot, and this is one of the first key ideas, because you just go bishop d5, e d5, and queen d5. Now, the fact that you've played the g4 idea with the pawn on b5, having played c takes b5 first, means that black can't play knight c6. You can't go bishop b7, of course, and if you go rook a7, then queen e5 check picks up the knight on b8. That is the, you know, that's one of the big points. So that just means that, you know, one of black's most natural ideas, you know, in terms of, well, I'm not going to take the pawn, just going to hit the centre, then that doesn't really work. So bishop b7 is another idea, and actually bishop g2, e6. This is the move that you're seeing over the board. I think there's two games with this line over the board, not high-rated players, but still. And what does white do in this position? e4 takes and takes. And yeah, I mean, this is actually ending up to be quite a nice advantage for white. I mean, this is what this is the main line of the engines: d6, knight c3, bishop b7, and then Stockfish wants b6, just to gain some space on the king side and yeah, just make sure that black's queenside attack doesn't really get going. You know, just the b file open, not the mb file. There's no pawn on b5 rushing down. And you know, this position was Stockfish Dragon Game with a big advantage for white, and it appealed to me because it really reminded me of a Stowflace idea, which I always remembered, and it was in a slightly different line, but you're going to see what I'm talking about. d4 c5, d5 knight f6, knight c3 e6. I've had this a lot in Blitz. In actual fact, this line, it's always quite popular for black. And here Stowflace played h3, bishop e7 and g4. Takes, castles, bishop g2. You know, with the idea of, after, well, black played knight e8, of playing f4, and the idea was simply to just to have a solid centre like that, and then start gaining space on the king side. And well, I mean, this worked out brilliantly for Stowflace. This was a game Stowflace against Nemorino in the TCEC season 22 in the cup. And yeah, Stowflace won a lovely game, just crushing, you know, gaining huge amounts of space on the king side like that. So yeah, this idea reminded me of that somehow, you know. So yeah, you know, not bad at all. So a takes b5 I've had an awful lot, and yeah, what the engines wanted from me: knight e4, bishop g2, and now knight d6 I've had a lot in my games, and now h4. And yeah, this is actually pretty dangerous. The idea is that if you go g6, I'm going h5 very quickly. I did have a player, I've played a lot in the Benko lines, who played h6, and then I went g6, which was extremely unpleasant. You know, this knight on d6 is blocking all the development, and after takes, queen c2, king f7, knight f3. I think we were heading to one of the saddest positions you've ever seen, really. Knight e5, knight g6, and then bishop e4, and this rook on h7 is hanging. Yeah, as you know, it's 67 rated player there as black, and well, with 5g4, I'm just absolutely completely winning, just winning a rook basically, you know, within 14 moves. Just shows how powerful these ideas are. But that also shows, you know, why you're playing h4. You're trying to make this this fianchetto unpalatable, really, you know, by trying, because, you know, if black can't fianchetto the bishop, then it's just never going to get developed. I mean, black should play g takes h5, but obviously, you know, you take on h5, and yeah, you've got ideas against the h7 pawn. It's quite pleasant for white. I mean, I had another game where, what was it, queen a5 check, king f1, bishop g7. I just went h6 and then b3, and again, this ended up as, you know, one of the saddest positions you've ever seen somehow. You know, just completely, utterly tied up there. Queen e3, knight g5. The pawn didn't matter. You know, I gave away the g5 pawn, but my knight's coming in to attack this one now. Now the dark squares are gone. You know, it's just absolutely horrific, this. You know, just absolutely terrible for black here. So all of this, by the way, it's all in the PGN that I'm going to put up on my site, so don't worry about writing it down or anything. That's why I'm going through it, you know, reasonably quickly. I'm just trying to give you the feel and the taste of the line, you know, rather than you know, you needing to learn specific lines from here. Of course, you know, the biggest line that you expect is knight takes g4, and then I go e4 here. Now, I had knight f6 quite a bit, surprisingly enough, because, you know, it should just be absolutely massive. Just knight f3, for example, and yeah, you know, d6 I can go e6, and g6 I can go h4. You know, I mean, it's just I've won a lot of games in this line. I lost one rather sad one, but you know, but I was completely winning as well. Just blitz technique is not always the best, unfortunately. But d6 is the idea, and here Stockfish showed me something quite amazing, actually, because yeah, you know, I was sort of thinking I go knight c3 or something like that. It's possible, you know, but yeah, once you've seen this idea, you can't unthink it. b6. What's the idea of b6? The idea is after queen b6, I go bishop h3. And there's a pin of the knight on the bishop on c8 here, which is actually going to be rather awkward. If h5, then I've got f3, for example. So, funnily enough, black can play the move f5, and after ef5, he's got this cunning little idea, bishop f5. That is possible, because if you go bishop g4, then there's queen b4 check, as the engines point out. But we go knight c3 here, and you know, we're threatening bishop g4. We're also threatening f3 here as well. So the engine line actually is queen b4, a3, takes, knight e2, d3, knight d4, hitting the bishop on f5, g6, takes, knight f5, bishop d3. Yeah, rook b1 and knight e2. This is the engine line. It's a slight edge for white. You know, two bishops. Yeah, pieces are going to get active. Of course, you know, black should be able to make a draw in this position, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff to work through, you know, in order to get there. I mean, even in a long play game, this is actually pretty tough here. So what most of my opponents have ended up doing is to play knight f6 in this position, and then queen b3. So actually rather awkward. I'm threatening b7, bishop b7, and now a4. Now the engines like the move that's being played against me an awful lot. That's a5. They don't particularly like knight takes e4. I go bishop g2 and then a5, and well, this pawn on b6 is just for, you know, long-term compensation. I just go knight c3, knight f3, castles, and then you know, put my pieces in the center, rook e1 to e2. You know, it's just a very big bind there, and yeah, long term, I mean, these pawns are just absolutely massive. You know, black can't really end up exchanging off any pieces because the ending's just going to be awful. So what black tends to do here is to go a5. So you're just sort of isolating this pawn. You're going to try and pick it up later, but I've got bishop b5 check, knight bd7, and then knight d2 in this position. And here there's a big division here. If you go queen takes b6, I go knight f3 in this position, and I'm just looking to break through in the center with e5. You know, after going knight c4 first of all, really quite dangerous. I mean, if you go queen c7, just to get out of the way, I go knight c4. If you go g6, I go e5. I'm going bishop f4. You know, this is really difficult for black. I mean, I've got, you know, rook castles coming in, d7. I've got moves like knight b6 as well. You know, because if queen b6, I could take, and bishop d7 check, and the queen on b6 would be hanging. This is just really dangerous. I mean, there are engine lines to sort of vaguely get to some sort of okay position, but you know, it's not human doable, I can tell you. If you go knight e4, then white plays bishop f4 in this position. I did all sorts of other different things, but the idea is simply white wants to go castle, rook e1, and then you know, this is just going to be in there. And we've got ideas like knight b6 again. So if queen b6, bishop d7, that's all in the air there. So let's have a look. Bishop a6 was the engine best line there, and then knight b6, rook d8 takes, bishop b5, queen c7, and then this move h4. You know, the point is, black wants to do a fianchetto here, but we're just going to start attacking it, and if you can't fianchetto, you can't develop this bishop. So rook b8, h5, knight e/f6, castles, and well, Stockfish and Dragon were just beating each other up with white here. You know, it's two pawns, but yeah, you know, it's just a dream position for white here. So queen takes b6 is not the move. g6 is the move. We go knight c4. You can do it in various ways, but knight c4 is the best line. If you go knight takes c4, we've got this line again, threatening a subtle knight takes d6 there. Queen b8, bishop f4, king d8 is the only move. yeah, I mean, you need to get out of this. You need to get out of this pin somehow. So knight f3, bishop d5, castles. The engine says this is about equal, but okay, you know, massive attacking chances for white. If you're an engine, you might be able to hold it, but you don't want to do this. So black's best line is to go bishop g7. Now I play f3 to cover the pawn on e4, and after castles, I go bishop d2. And what is white's idea? Well, I mean, white's actually just aiming to either to take this pawn on a5, and then afterwards just move the a pawn up. And you know, black's not easy for black somehow. I mean, if you do something like this, I'm just taking on d6. You've got to break up your structure. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff hanging there for black. And white's always got a reasonably safe place on the king side here, because the bishop on b5 is blocking that b file. So there's a lot of lines. I've analysed a lot of different lines here. For example, one of my games was knight h5. I just took on a5, takes, and a5. Black tried knight b6. That's the one thing you've always got to watch out for, you know, just these sort of sacrifices. But I didn't even take it. I just went a6, just threatening a7, and then I'll go bishop a5 afterwards and pin you. If knight a8, I went bishop b7, and I'm just threatening a7. So black swapped off queens, but you know, you get this position, and I'm just threatening to go rook b1. If you don't do anything, I'll go b4, takes, and then I'll just go, oops, a7 there. So, well, this actually happened, takes there, bishop e5. I went king d2, didn't rush, and a7 is going to come in my own good time. So that was, you know, very, very powerful. Let's have a look. What else did I have? I had a game where knight b6 happened, and I went bishop a5. Black tried for some counterplay like this, and I just went a5, and black even resigned in this position. I mean, my pawn's just coming all the way through. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of moves. Knight e5 is quite interesting. Takes, bishop c6, rook b8, bishop a5. This is one of the big engine lines, but I mean, yeah, absolutely crazy. There's a little bit of analysis on there. I've had quite a few games against one chess players, about 2680, and yeah, I think I've probably won a few more than I've lost. But it's you know, complicated positions here really. You know, black just sacrifices a piece and then just tries to claim that he's going to pick up some pawns left and right and have some counterplay. But yeah, I mean, just have a look at my analysis here, and you'll see how it goes. White's idea here is just to get out of the way, castle queenside, and then start hitting at these pawns. In principle, I think, you know, white is doing quite nicely here. You know, got to be a little bit careful. Your king's a little bit open, but you're a piece up, and I think black's task is harder. So so there we are. That is Leela's G4 idea against the Benko. Yeah, I mean, I can thoroughly recommend it. Again, the games I've had have been absolutely incredible. I've lost a couple of games with it. Sometimes you can lose a little bit of control, but I've won, you know, some amazing games, incredible positions, and some really quick games as well, simply because you know, you're just, you know, that's the thing about the, you know, the Benko is an opening where black's trying to put the pressure on you. It's trying to say, I'm giving you a pawn, and now you're going to have to play accurately and survive, and I'm going to be up on time. Now I can play my first 15 or 16 moves just on automatic pilot. Here, no chance. Automatic pilot is instant disaster. So I think it's a really powerful idea, and yeah, just yeah, amazing that, you know, Leela can suggest something like this, and obviously, yeah, all the engine games I've run with Stockfish and Komodo and with Torch now, you know, they're really just opening up some of the other facets and just yeah, putting the dots on the i's in terms of little tactical ideas. But yeah, I mean, this idea d6 b6. Yeah, it's really just completely shocking people somehow. It's really costing them time to try and get a grip of what on earth is this lunatic doing. So there we are. I hope you enjoyed that, and you're enjoying this this series. Lots more to come in all sorts of different lines. I'm basically just showing you the blitz repertoire that I've been building up for the past 4 weeks, basically. So it's 4 weeks of a lot of engine work, a lot of analysis, and a lot of blitz games. So I hope you're enjoying this. And yeah, you know, if you enjoyed the video, why not give a like, subscribe to the channel, take a look at my new books, Silicon Road to Chess Improvement, and also Re-engineering the Chess Classics. If you love classic games, love engines, and you love what they have to say about the classic games. But otherwise, you know, thanks very much for watching, and hope to see you for the next videos. Thanks for watching.